Welcome back to the Bitcoin Layer. I'm Nik Bhatia. Today we welcome Unchained's Connor Dolan. Connor is formerly at BlackRock and brings an institutional experience to Unchained. Connor, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nik. It's a pleasure to be here.
Connor, I want to ask you about Bitcoin and retirement. A lot of our viewers are Americans that are trying to build a retirement account. They want to invest in Bitcoin, but they want the tax advantages of IRAs and 401ks. So give people an overview on how to do that. What is the approach? Let's say you have your Bitcoin either on an exchange or already in your own custody. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, and I think there's probably two answers to that question. One talking about the Bitcoin that you already own, and two talking about the retirement assets that you already own. We really live in a new age of investing for retirement accounts, and we've seen this develop just over the last number of years where individuals are utilizing Bitcoin within a retirement account to help them achieve their retirement goals and their financial goals. And so, for anyone that has a 401k with an old employer or maybe has an IRA, the reason why you have funds in those accounts are the tax incentives that you get from investing into a retirement account. The idea being the government's going to give you tax incentives to hold money until you retire so that they don't have to take care of you. And so to incentivize you to hold assets and grow a portfolio until you're 59 and a half, they offer tax incentives to do that. There are multiple different types of retirement accounts, traditional, Roth, SEP, simple. Happy to dive into the specifics on any of them, but ultimately all of them allow you to avoid and mitigate the taxes that you pay by investing in this special type of account. The idea of any sort of retirement account should be have the highest amount of value in your portfolio by the time you're 59 and a half. As Bitcoin was introduced into the scene over the last decade and a half, people have realized that it is a hack in a certain way to take Bitcoin and invest it within a retirement account. For example, within a Roth IRA, which is after tax contributions. If you invest in a Roth IRA and follow all the rules and wait until you're 59 and a half, you can withdraw those funds tax free and avoid the capital gains tax that you would otherwise have to pay on the profit in a non-retirement account. And so the thought of what is Bitcoin's price going to be when I'm 59 and a half, I think is a very enticing opportunity for a lot of individuals. And there are a number of ways to get exposure to Bitcoin within a retirement account, especially now with the approval of the Bitcoin ETF and the pervasive Bitcoin proxy type stocks that exist like MicroStrategy and Mara. But there's also the opportunity now to invest in real Bitcoin within an IRA. There are multiple services out there that do that. I work at Unchained, which is a Bitcoin financial services company. And a huge aspect of what we do is custody and empowering individuals to hold their own private keys. We have a solution that allows you to hold Bitcoin in a retirement account while still controlling the keys. It's the only solution like that in the space. But ultimately, there's a lot of different options out there in terms of getting exposure to Bitcoin within a retirement account. And we're always going to prefer owning real Bitcoin versus any sort of Bitcoin proxy.
Connor, what did you do at BlackRock and why did you come over to Bitcoin?
Yeah, so the quick backstory, I got interested in stocks in high school as a hobby. And that led me to be a finance major in college. And after I graduated, I spent a little under a decade in traditional finance, first at an asset manager called Capital Group. And then I spent a number of years at BlackRock. I was doing a couple of different things during my time at BlackRock. First, I was working on the wealth advisory team, working with financial advisors. And on the sales desk there is actually when I first learned about Bitcoin and digital assets. And then I transitioned during my time at BlackRock to treasury management. And I was on the sell side of that. So basically, I was helping large corporations like Facebook and Tesla invest their treasuries in a super short term, very liquid money market fund, which is a fancy way of saying I was a cash salesman. So ultimately, I was fully going down the cash is trash rabbit hole, thanks to books like Layered Money and others. And while in this job where I was a cash salesman, and I just reached a breaking point and decided I want to work in Bitcoin.
And I was a cash trader on the other side, trading money market funds.
There you go.
And so you never know. I might have traded some of the funds that you were hooking up your clients with at Treasury Management, because a couple of those clients do sound familiar from my side of the table.
That's right.
Now I want to ask you about, back to this retirement concept, because this is really what people care about. I want them to know where you come from, and the advice that Unchained gives its clients is focused on trying to protect the client, both from their Bitcoin holding perspective, right? Because private key management is its own task, but then also just generally hodling that Bitcoin and figuring out how to not sell, right? Without giving them financial advice, but they're coming to you saying, hey, this is something I want to hold for me and my family. So you help them hold, right? So let's get into that IRA solution a little bit. How does it even work that you can have custody of your Bitcoin, but still get the tax advantage?
Yeah. So all of that starts with the custody model that Unchained offers. I'll talk through the mechanics of how the actual IRA product works, but I think in order to understand how we're able to do what we do, it's important to talk through how our custody model works. So, for anyone that may be unfamiliar with Unchained or just private keys in general, Bitcoin lives on addresses, and every address has at least one cryptographic private key associated with it. Within the Bitcoin protocol is the ability to build an address that has multiple private keys associated with it as opposed to just one. And you can construct that address to say there are this number of total keys, but in order to access the Bitcoin, I only need this many keys out of this many total keys. The benefit of utilizing that structure versus a single address with a single key is that that's a single point of failure there. And that's typically where most people start, just thinking about holding their keys or holding their own Bitcoin in general, whether it's in an IRA or not. I'm going to get one hardware wallet. I'm going to set up a single signature wallet, and I have that one key, and I'm the only person in the world with access to the Bitcoin. The issue, though, is that if I lose that key, someone steals that seed phrase, there's a single point of failure there where I could lose all of my Bitcoin. And when we're looking at holding this asset for the long term, we want to eliminate any of these single points of failure. So Multisig allows you to build addresses that eliminate that single point of failure. And what we do at Unchained is we help clients build these types of addresses. And specifically, we help clients build 2 of 3 addresses. So there's 3 private keys in total, and you need any 2 of those 3 keys in order to move the Bitcoin. Typically, that is structured where Unchained holds 1 key, and as a client, you're holding 2 keys. So you need 2 keys to move it. Unchained only has 1. We don't actually have the ability to move the Bitcoin or confiscate the Bitcoin because we only have 1 key, and that's very different than any other custodial provider out there. As a client, you hold 2 keys, you still have control of the Bitcoin. I walk through that because that's ultimately how the IRA is possible. As a client, you still control a quorum of the keys. You're still the only person in the world that has the ability to actually move that Bitcoin to a different address. But because we hold that 3rd key, we have all the visibility that we need in order to manage any sort of tax implications around it. So we set up an IRA for you at our IRA custodial partner. We build you one of these 2 of 3 addresses titled to that IRA. And then typically individuals are funding that with existing IRA assets that are sitting in an S&P 500 ETF or whatever it may be, or an old 401k. through our trading desk. We turn that Bitcoin into real dollars, turn those dollars into real Bitcoin after you transfer it over, and we deposit it into that address that you control the keys to.
Now, tell me about donor advised funds. What are these vehicles for?
Sure. And I guess maybe at this point, it's always important to point out I can't give any sort of financial advice. This is all for educational purposes only. But donor advised funds are a increasingly popular investment tool that typically high net worth individuals are utilizing to optimize their tax situation and mitigate the taxes that they may need to pay. The way it works is it's a charitable giving option where you can, donor advised funds more broadly exist in a number of different ways where you can donate equities, you can donate real estate into this donor advised fund. You make that donation, and then the donor advised fund, you're able to recommend grants out to the organizations, the nonprofits of your choice over time. The benefit of that, as opposed to making the donation directly, is that you can keep those funds invested for the long term, let them continue to grow, and you can decide when you want those grants to actually be distributed. The benefit of making that donation initially is that you're going to get a tax write-off on your income the following year. And so what Unchained has just rolled out in partnership with UI Charitable Advisors is a donor advised fund solution for Bitcoin, where you can deposit Bitcoin into a donor advised fund, hold it in Bitcoin, not be forced to liquidate it to dollars, which is typically the case for any sort of donor advised fund that supports Bitcoin today. And then you get that tax write off on the front end, and you have your Bitcoin sitting in this donor advised fund. And over time, you can distribute those funds out in dollars. You can convert the Bitcoin back to dollars and donate to your local church or your local hospital. Or you can actually, through the Unchained solution that we have, make donations in Bitcoin, which is just a really cool dynamic that we're seeing play out, where we have Bitcoiners contributing to these donor advised funds and then donating Bitcoin to the Bitcoin nonprofit of their choice. And perfect example of that is just the other day, the Human Rights Foundation received a Bitcoin grant from a donor advised fund that was made possible through the Unchained solution.
Excellent. And Connor, talk to us about the message that Unchained is trying to send right now about getting your Bitcoin house in order. I know that this is, we're talking about Bitcoin now with an ETF that hit $99,800 in November. We're clearly in the next era of Bitcoin. We're heading into a 2025 that just has a lot of people energetic. And, without you and me telling the viewer that Bitcoin is going to go up, I know you believe it and I believe it, but that doesn't have to be what this is about. It should be about getting your Bitcoin house in order, because it's not about what is the price going to do next year. It's that, hey, Bitcoin is going to be leveling up over the next decade in its role in the world financial system. So either get involved. Hopefully people are already involved if they're here with you and me, but stay involved and then get it cleaned up on your side, because a lot of people, let's just say it, they have their coins on Coinbase and they have to figure it out. So what is Unchained doing for people right now? What is the event?
Yeah, well, incredibly well said. And I couldn't agree more. Not only do people have their coins on Coinbase, I think a vast majority of them don't even see the problem with it or know the risks that are associated with leaving your Bitcoin on an exchange, whether it's Coinbase or anyone else. And you mentioned the point about not, we can tell them that Bitcoin's price is going to go up. I think, to your point, the first step, or the second step maybe in the Bitcoin journey, is moving past the attractiveness of number go up and get rich quick. I mean, the reality is, I mean, there are other reasons, but a vast majority of people, at least their initial interest in Bitcoin, is perked because they see massive gains and they want to be a part of it. And the more that you go down the rabbit hole and the more you get educated, you typically see this transition where I'm not worried about the number going up. Frankly, I don't care. It almost feels inevitable. I'm focused on the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And I think that's a great place to start as we enter arguably a new bull market here in 2025, is zooming out and thinking about the long term, because once you get in Bitcoin and you have any sort of meaningful stack, the likelihood is you're holding that for the long term. And the longer your time horizon is pushed out, the more you need to start considering all of the other risks associated with holding your Bitcoin for the long term. And so as we head into 2025 and this exciting new year for the markets, Unchained is starting an initiative we're calling Get Your Bitcoin House in Order, where we are creating a game plan for clients who already own Bitcoin and they know they need to do more. They need to take that next step and level up, and they don't know where to start. And so we're creating a whole playbook for clients with online events and blogs and articles, all focused around getting your Bitcoin house in order. That's going to kick off here in just a few days with a special online event with Tur Demeester and Jeff Vandrew. So Tur Demeester is one of the brightest macroeconomists in the space today, been around since 2012. He's famous for his reports that he puts out before every bull market. He's going to be giving some insights on his macro thesis for the next year in Bitcoin. And Jeff Vandrew is the general counsel for Unchained and also an OG in the space and one of the most knowledgeable individuals on Bitcoin IRAs and Bitcoin inheritance. He basically created the Bitcoin IRA industry. So for anyone out there that's interested in learning more about Bitcoin IRAs, Jeff is definitely a resource you want to listen to. And I have the pleasure of hosting the conversation where Tur and Jeff are going to walk through that playbook and give people tips. And I'm happy to, talk through some of what we're going to be covering. But that online event is in a few days here on December 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And if you're interested, you can go to unchained.com to sign up.
Absolutely. And at Unchained, we have here a partner at the Bitcoin layer that it's someone we can really point people toward. I mean, while you guys offer financial services, the ethos is around collaborative custody and being there for the client. So we feel comfortable sending people to you guys because it can be just the simple intro to Bitcoin custody that people need to get comfortable bringing the coins off the exchange. And that's really what Bitcoin is all about. It's experiencing it. I don't think that someone can really know what Bitcoin is unless you've used it, meaning you have to send transactions to know what it is. And the first transaction I think anybody really makes in Bitcoin is to send Bitcoin to themselves. And
100%.
There's nothing like it, and Unchained can be there for you in that experience. So, and I just want to say one thing about Tur Demeester, because people need to get the details from Jeff, right? He's the person who actually understands the law around these vehicles. So if you're going to get advice from anybody, it's going to be Jeff. But on the Tur Demeester side, Tur's, I think his 2012 or 2013 online video that was viral. It was the first video that I understood the potential size of Bitcoin because I understood what the asset was, what it what it could represent in the world of global finance. So it's a killer combo. People should go sign up for that online event on December 10th. I'm very excited for it. I know that I have a few family members that need to get on that online event, and they've been asking me about exactly these questions. What do we need to do to get our house in order? So, Connor, any last thoughts for the viewer?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. You put it great. The event is going to be really informative. I'm excited to host it. We're going to be covering custody, retirement plans, donor advised funds. Going to have Q&A, which is just such a rare opportunity to pick the brain of these guys. And no, I mean, I'm just super grateful for the opportunity to be here, Nick. I'm a huge fan of you and Layered Money. I don't know if it's showing up in my camera feed here, but that was a huge book for me, and it's one of the intro, one of the first books that I recommend people who are interested in learning more. I just think it's a really good, succinct explanation of Bitcoin's value prop, and also a huge fan of the Bitcoin layer. I think as we make this transition from traditional finance to this new age of golden money, it's really important to address the needs that you're addressing with the Bitcoin layer and legitimizing the space that we have here. So yeah, just really excited for the opportunity. And if anyone's interested in learning more about preparing for Bitcoin retirement and inheritance planning, definitely encourage you to enjoy the event next week. And Unchained is here to help.
Absolutely. And people should go check out unchained.com/TBL and tell them that the Bitcoin layer sent you. Thanks, Connor, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks so much, Nick.